Um, I've got a couple of special guests with me, and I've got NK with me as well. Um, I believe you guys saw we spoke last week as well, and then we spoke on our Urdu channel as well. And that's because today we're gonna we last week we spoke about how her how she struggled to get divorce by her husband. That would how countries like UAE, it can be very um, problematic for even somewhat liberal countries like UAE, how problematic it can be for a woman to earn her freedom. But today we're going to talk about how she left Islam, because after this experience she ended up leaving Islam and now she's an ex-Muslim. And I've got NK with me. NK, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Haris. How are you?
I am very good. So I'm very excited to actually hear your story about how you actually ended up leaving Islam, because I think last week we didn't talk about it, we didn't touch on that issue, and a lot of people seemed like in the comments were giving you a hard time and saying, well, why? Well, I don't know if you get a chance to read some of the comments or not, but like, why is she still a Muslim?
Yeah.
So
and I'm like, I'm not. Don't you see it? How can you?
Yeah, we did talk about it, but I guess people sometimes zone out, and attention span is very short. So let's talk about it. So we talked about how you grew up in Middle East, even though you were born in England, and then you were married to a Pakistani Muslim in UAE, and then your marriage fell apart within a year because after whatever you realized, you two can't go on, and then it became a hell for you to just to go through something that is divorce. So eventually you thought, okay, maybe it's best for you to go back to England rather than contest divorce, because according to some Islamic loopholes in the UAE legal system, your ex-husband was trying to get you done for things like theft or some other crap, and UAE police threatened that they could take you and put you in the custody of your husband that you're trying to get rid of. So that is a very traumatic experience. And as I said, like, if I was you, I would think that if I could think in those circumstances, I would do exactly what you did. That is just screw you, I'm flying out of here. And that's what you ended up doing. So what happened after that?
Yeah, so exactly, just following on from what you were saying, after that I got back, and I mean, obviously my mind is ticking, thinking, is this actually Islam? Is Islam justifying this, allowing this to happen? Or is this like a cultural perversion of Islam? So then I just went like slap bang into research, and I was like, which aspects of the Quran are they using to make such laws? And is this even warranted in the Quran, or is this just them taking things out of context? The most famous line we're given. So obviously, like, the more you research, the worse it gets. It's almost like as you go down the rabbit hole, that there's a lot of things. So for me, the most important thing was the status and treatment of women directly in the Quran, which is written, I mean, it's point blank in front of you. So when I saw that and I read that in English, and I still was coming from a place at this point where I'm trying to defend what happened to me. So if somebody was to ask me, oh yeah, that's what Islam does, I as a Muslim could have said, no, that's not what my religion allows you to do, that's a corruption of it. So I actually started doing research from a place of wanting to defend just my position if I was to, carry on with my life and justify what had happened. So when I read these verses in English, I still had that thought that obviously the Quran came down in Arabic, and you can never get the true nature of the meaning until you translate it and you understand the Arabic version. And with the internet at our fingertips, I went to some YouTube channels where people like Master Arab, Sharif Gabber, who is still in a precarious situation based on his last Twitter post, but basically they were.
Did you see me?
I did, because then I was more really into the Urdu application of this as well, and that's when I discovered you and your channel. So then I was hooked on that as well. But basically, these people were telling me when I'm reading a word, for example, daraba, which is I think to beat.
Beat. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So the apologists and Islam TV and all of these people were telling me, oh, it's lightly with a toothbrush, or it's the old like miswak branches they used to
Handkerchief.
like tame cattle. Yeah,
Handkerchief.
um, exactly. First of all, why are you using the same tools that you use to tame cattle and wild horses to women? And second of all, when you hear it straight from a native Arabic speaker who's telling you, you know, the word means to beat or strike, there's no two ways about it, but they're
Yeah.
going to try and water it down for you.
It's fine. It's always the
Um,
Desi ones. It's always the Desi Muslim scholars always trying to say, it's about this, it's about a miswak, or it's about with a handkerchief. I even saw one scholar who was saying, just hit her like this. I'm like, what is it? Is it turkey snapping or something? But anyway,
oh my God. And then it was just, I was doing some kind of outside reading as well, and I came across this line which said, if something has violence in it, there's no way there can be divinity in it. And that really resonated with me because as I read and researched more and more about the Quran, I was like, it's not just the statement and the status and treatment of women, it's also Muhammad's life and his death, but his life where there's at least 90 military campaigns that he either led, participated in, or commanded himself. So then it kind of like was, I mean, the pieces of the puzzle were coming together that this is kind of all about, it's a political ideology. You know, they say that Islam should be the dominant religion in the world. So I saw him more in the sense of a military leader, where women were the spoils of his wars, and this was political, like Arab imperialism with an expansionist agenda, which is why they've come. They went through India, they went through the whole of the Middle East, and they're just putting that
North
one
Africa.
culture
Right.
and forcing it on everybody. So those were the main things, obviously, but the way that if you're a woman and then you kind of read not just the Quran, but I know a lot of people separate the Hadith, and there's contention in my own family whether the Hadith you should rely on or not. But there is a fact that a lot of what we do comes from
Now, the
same
only
Hadith.
criterion of Hadith is if it's embarrassing, then don't
Yeah,
accept it.
that's what you realize exactly. And then some of
Every
them,
Muslim has his own criteria of and his own subjective view of embarrassing as well. If you tell them about the camel urine one, then
yeah,
then they get embarrassed. But if you tell them about like I don't know, some hadith about, Prophet Muhammad said that if you eat dates, then it will keep you from all kinds of diseases. Then they say, yeah, depending on the upbringing of the
what it
person, they would
is.
say, it might work, like it could be an ancient remedy or something. But then if you're more
Yeah,
modern, more
dates and black
educated,
seed
then yeah,
oil. They're like
black
the
seed oil,
elixirs
that's
of
it.
life. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Anyway,
Um, but then again, like there's some darker hadith which you still can't turn away from because they're classified as sahih. And I'm not even on like, Western or Kafir websites here. I'm on Islamic websites.
yeah,
So like the story of Girfa, I think it was,
yeah,
where they tied her legs to two camels
pulled her
and
apart.
yeah, exactly. And that was done on the orders of the so-called prophet. This is the man who is
And
meant to
his son did
represent
it,
the
and
yeah,
his son Zaid did it.
yeah. And this is one of many. I mean, and then I went to, all of the poets that he had killed, and the camel urine thing where they betrayed him, and then they branded their eyes with iron, and it was so dark. And even, for example, the most
Have you heard of the story of
misquoted.
the one-eyed Bedouin?
No, I haven't
So
actually.
one-eyed Bedouin is a very interesting one. I wrote that in the book. So there was this guy who was chasing Abu Sufyan, this Muhammad's lackey. He was chasing Abu Sufyan and he was escaping. And then along the way, he found a cave, so he had to spend the night. And there was a one-eyed Bedouin who was also there. So he said, "Oh, who are you, my friend?" And he says, "Like I'm a Muslim. I follow Muhammad." And he said, and then he recited a poem. He sung a song or something. He said, "I will never convert to Islam. I would never follow Muhammad, the charlatan, blah blah blah, whatever." So he sung that, and then when he fell asleep, this Muhammad's lackey, he said he woke up in the middle of the night, pushed his bow in his other eye, in his good eye, and pushed it so
Oh,
hard that it came out of the back of his head. And he said, "I have never killed anyone in such a brutal manner. Prophet Muhammad, did I do okay?" And then Muhammad said, "Well done."
yeah, yeah. Oh my goodness. I mean,
That's the
that's what
story
I
of
mean.
one-eyed Bedouin.
The more you look into it, the more stories like this prop up, and then people, obviously the apologists, people who are still very much in this, even that the most misquoted verse that Obama used in his speech, I used to use this as a defense as well, that no, the Quran says killing one person is akin to killing all of mankind. But you just have to read the second the
Bit of
second
the
two
same
lines
verse,
after
yeah.
that. Exactly, because that, first of all, that's referring to the children of Israel. Second of
Mm.
all, it says anybody who disobeys Allah, like literally cut off their
Spreads
opposite
corruption.
sides of their
Yeah.
hands and feet. So I'm like,
Yeah.
even Obama, if he just read the next two lines, your entire premise of what you're saying falls apart. So I
So
just
all of
realized,
that, you were seeing all of that, which is a common, what they say, that these ex-Muslims or these Islamophobes are spreading lies about Islam or out of context, or the typical excuse that they give. But we're not even spreading lies. I mean, these are written in their own books and in their own hadith, so there's no lies about it. They could probably try to twist and turn the meaning and say, like as you said, daraba means just hit it lightly or with handkerchief or whatever they say. But what we're seeing now is it's actually impacting. Now, your story happened in 2015, I believe you said.
yeah.
So your research would have started in 2015, 2016.
No, so by the time I got out, so I got married in 2015. So by the time I came back to the UK, it was 2018 by now.
Right. Okay. Yeah, probably. I wasn't putting out that much content at that time. Right. So that at that point, obviously, a lot of content was already out, and obviously, Apostate Prophet, you would have seen a lot of his content as well. But and I shared this video earlier, and let me share that again with all these people. That, guys, NK is not the only one. Have a look at this video. We've seen it coming for quite a long time, but now Islamic scholars are also seeing this, and they got nothing. They got no solutions. They got no answers. Have a look.
Good.
Something that is really threatening the core of our society. Something that is so severe, so serious, that almost every single day I deal with it. Every single day. And that is Muslim youth leaving Islam. What percentage do you think that would be? Is it 2% of our youth? 20 more. 24% of Muslim youth are leaving Islam.
Do you know how many Muslims became atheists today? Polls conducted in the Muslim world reveal that up to 5% of Muslims in some of the most conservative Muslim countries in the world are closet atheists. Right now, there are non-profit organizations all over the world whose mission is to spread atheism in Muslim lives. One of my friends did an internet search on the words, "Why Islam is true." Do you know what he found? At the top of the search results was an organization of ex-Muslims who had paid Google to make sure that anyone who searched on those words would find their results displayed prominently before all other search results.
It is rare that you would find back home a young man or a young woman addressing their parents, their family, and telling them, "I don't believe in Allah. I don't believe that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a messenger of Allah. I don't believe that the Quran is a book of revelation." That is unthinkable. That is the unthinkable. It is happening. It is happening continuously. It is going to become an avalanche, a tsunami that is going to hit our community.
I saw you smiling. yeah. But this is quite something. I mean, I when I see them, when I see, like, I remember watching Bilal Phillips' video, the last guy. That's a little bit older video, but the other two videos I hadn't seen before. But this is something that we've been seeing it coming for quite some time now. As I said, like, we've seen in Iran, people are leaving Islam. In Saudi Arabia, 5% atheists. This is an undercover study, and also Iranian studies an undercover study, underground study. And the BBC into the BBC study they did in Northern Africa and Tunisia and Tanzania as well. People are leaving Islam in huge numbers. I mean, it's just quite remarkable. And obviously, you're just one of those people.
Yeah, I think I remember you talking about it in another video of yours, I think, where you were discussing the statistics of how many people consider themselves atheists in these supposed Muslim countries. And I think the last one with the most remaining Muslims was Yemen or something like that. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's crazy because until all of this happened, until I actually confronted the Quran and the actual Islamic texts, when I was at university, I did take a module in Islamic law, and I remember another Pakistani actual guy was standing there, a Pakistani guy, and he was also doing the law module, but he came up to me and literally introduced himself as, "Hi, I'm," whatever his name was, "but I'm not Muslim, but I just want to study this. I'm not Muslim anymore." And I gave him the weirdest look, like I didn't even know this was a thing that you could even, check out of the religion. So I was like, why? Like, why would you do that to yourself?
Were you Muslim? Were you Muslim at that point?
Yeah, I was. So I was shocked that this was an actual thing. And now when I look at it, because that's not even a criteria in your mind that if I don't like this, can I bounce from this religion? That is the hallmark of a cult in itself. The fact that if you do want to leave, the punishment on you is death, and you're not encouraged to question. That's Satan messing with your mind, and then the clues are right there in the Quran. Like, Allah is saying, if this was a false book, you'd find in it lots of contradictions. Well, I have. There's tons, yeah.
And when you confront these scholars with them, they're like, "Oh, that start twisting and turning it." So I mean, you have
and the level of mental gymnastics is like, how do you sleep at night, knowing what you're twisting to make what, just so people can stick to this?
I have spoken with some really intelligent Muslim apologists, and I'm like, it makes sense to them. Like all these mental gymnastics make sense to them, but. Like, I'm a firm believer of the fact that no matter whichever idea it is, it can never be popular or accepted by a wide margin. It just doesn't happen. Whatever idea that is, you're going to have some people accepting it, some people rejecting it, and some people are not going to have any opinion about it. That's just the general rule of the thumb about every idea that we have. But it's only religions, especially Abrahamic religions, they have maintained this monopoly over, this overwhelming consensus or acceptance purely because of one reason. Either societal pressure, that is, like punishment for apostasy is death, or, psychological pressure that, there's going to be hell for you. Yeah. That's why most questions that people ask me, like a lot of Muslims, what if, when you die, you find out there is a Allah in hell? It's like, yeah, well, I mean, they can't think themselves out of that. And I say, well, what would you do if one of the 999 other gods turn up to be the right ones? To help me produce more videos like these, support me on Patreon or PayPal.